going on?
Not much. Well, actually, a fair amount.
Okay.
I started some courses this week for that esports management stuff. Not sure if I'm regretting it already or not, but
Really? Why?
I don't know. Just I'm looking at it like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work, and what was I thinking, kind of a thing, which is pretty much anytime you start something new. So, but with no fixed goal in mind, it's hard to see that there's going to be much benefit, but there probably will be. And then so I'm moving on to a different contract, I guess, at work now. So it's not going to be it'll be a kind of a temporary. It's like a 2-month thing, but it's not development. It's more consulting. So we're going to be doing like a evaluation of a system and looking for risks and giving some options for remediations and stuff. So
Pretty much what I've been doing.
Yeah, no coding, but yeah, just basically like how you could make your system better type thing. So
Tell them to hire me too.
Yeah, that'll be on the list for sure. It'll be hire Scott remote.
I'll tell you, I tried to quit my job last week.
You did?
I sent them a 2-week notice, and they rejected it.
Like, no, you can't do that, or what?
They're like, can you give us 24 hours? Are you willing to be flexible? I mean, if you frame it of, am I willing to be flexible? Then yeah, well, let us see what we can do to accommodate you. Okay. And then they removed a barrier. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just.
No, that's good.
You ever like try to help an organization, but they have so much security and red tape? You just find yourself having a relationship with help desk. They don't help you at that.
I've had situations like that. Not terrible, but yeah, I think people tend to go overboard with some of their security stuff, which maybe sounds bad, but when you think about what developers could be capable of if they were nefarious, password policies and stuff like that, or gaining access to a server to do something is like, yeah, they could be doing it to be nefarious, but in 99.9% of the cases, they're doing it because they're trying to help you make money.
Just indict me. Indict me.
Yeah.
Me looking at 15 years, 30 years, you already know my identity. You know the areas that I frequent back and forth. It's a high probability that you'll find me. So, I mean, yeah. I get it on their side. It just has to work for both parties, right? So I would like to say I have the startup mentality of go, 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 go. Commit, 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 commit. Praise myself, praise myself, praise myself. I'm awesome. To develop an unhealthy relationship with the help desk, and I can't get anything done. And then, the consulting firm says, hey, how's everything going? I can't deliver anything because of security and technical difficulties. So it just looks weird because I feel like it makes me look as if I don't know what I'm doing. And it's not the case. I mean, it could be the case, but I don't think so. I'm documenting everything in Slack channels. It's like I'm just getting annoyed. Like, I want to build stuff, not dance around red tape, and I should have no issues logging into whatever systems or portals. And it's like I just spend an entire business day or business days dealing with security issues.
Yeah, pretty much every security. I'm of the opinion that most every security measure that's put in place should have a self-service way to get around it, and it should be a little bit more liberal than it is. So lockout policies, for instance, those are freaking annoying. You hit them all the time because stuff gets cached. There should be a way to get that, within 5 minutes or something, be unlocked or whatever and back on your way, and it should be accessible really quickly. But even that for password, for if you forget your password or whatever, they should have some challenges in place that you could just self-service get it back by just entering in some information that only you would know, or even if they just implement two-factor authentication every time and just trust that more. I don't know. I also just like when they remove access to things like a database, because it's like, well, what can you do with it? It's like help you solve an issue should that arise. Like you're not really no, I mean, I'm talking about read access. I don't want write access to a lot of stuff, but even then there's situations where you might find something you didn't think about and you really need to put in a data thing, and to have to depend on the database person to be there to do it, like a data update.
You can't have isn't that the purpose of a dev environment?
Yeah, but there's always stuff that gets, emergent situations that could happen where you could solve them in 5 minutes if you could just update some record, because that's the thing that's stuck. Because maybe a message got dropped because of a blip in the network or something. Who knows? There should be ways to just submit SQL to it, have some, a broad range of possible people to peer review it, and then submit it off to be executed quickly.
I'm curious how DARPA, CIA, NSA, DEA, I'm curious how they build software. Or is it just ridiculously slow?
It's all really old.
Or do they just write contracts for others to do it, but they still have to mandate that those people that they contract to build their software or their systems still need to entertain the red tape.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of red tape, but there's also a lot of money there. But also their systems, I don't think they change them very much.
It's probably hella controlled though. It's probably like no work from home. Like you need to work into a windowless. You need to work inside of a windowless building
bunker
and everything. Yeah, and you're on their network. You have to be on site. And I mean, with me, my assumption is because I work from home, I bounce around between Miami and Canada. My assumption is there has to be some issues with their security that they didn't have a test scenario for. I mean, I don't know how their stuff is implemented, but I can't get into their system. And when I do, it's only temporary. It's just annoying. I'm done venting.
Yeah, they need to solve that for you.
I haven't rolled F# in so long that I actually look forward to writing some F#. It's been I think it's been 2 to 3 weeks since I wrote some F#. Do you ever go without coding for a while that you kind of feel refreshed if you were to get back in the ring and start doing it again?
Yeah. I mean, I'm coding right now, but the level of coding I'm doing isn't one where I'm ever going to reach a flow state or really enjoy what I'm doing. So it's just like tiny little changes of things. It's not.
Remember our conversation the last couple minutes, we're supposed to get a bottle and just guzzle it, and then see if our ratings change. Captain Morgan.
Yeah, I'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah, we should do it when we both get laid off and like severely depressed. And then we'll buy a bottle and see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, it could be. Who knows? So the plan for this thing is I'm going to work on this contract for a couple months, and then I'm supposed to come back to the one that I'm working on right now, or at least that's the plan. Of course, it could be the case where they just don't want me back, or I just I'll more likely I just will want to move on to something else. So, but I've got some leads for some other things that when I found out I was going to do this contract, that same day I got contacted by someone I was talking to a few months ago about getting on a team with them. So then they wanted to follow up again when I'm done with this. So
are you assessing the implementation details, or are you assessing everything?
Everything is from what I'm understanding. It's more of an architectural thing, but I'm trying to get the statement of work so that I can actually see what the charter is for us to do, because it's been fairly vague. It's like, the company that we're dealing with knows that there's risks with the inflexibility of their software. I think is really the key to it, and they want to know, find some strategies to make it so that they can mitigate that and update their overall architecture to one where they can be a little bit more nimble.
Are they prepared to act on it?
Well, that's the thing. I think so. The main thing that they're that they don't want to do, which I like the idea of not doing, is like bring in some brand new big package that they're going to have to big bang switch over to, which I pretty much hate that approach for businesses in its entirety. I like much more smaller modular changes, or concurrent, running things concurrently and then swapping over once you get things right. Rather than just like, hey, we're on system A today and we're going to system B tomorrow, and we got to do a big data migration and all this. Like, no.
My assessments are always have the same thing, regardless of the organization. My assessments are always just because you have a directory called views, a directory called view models or controllers, a directory called services, a directory called repositories, that does not mean that your one library that encompasses all those folders is your architecture. Like that's not architecture, because you have a whole bunch of folders in one library that handles all responsibilities of the application. So I usually ding them on single responsibility principle, because 99.9% of everybody believes that just has to do with class and methods, and they forget that libraries should also be dedicated. I almost always, when I'm doing the assessment, hit them up for their file system, which I just explained. The other part is almost never are there automated tests, so I ding them for that, and then also ding them for, and they're not trying to hear it, but I'll write like a 1-page dissertation on it. I ding them for feature branches. I tell them what the consequences are, and the way that I write it up, you can't argue with me. You can't debate, right? The only thing you can say is, oh, well, the tooling for for code reviews are better when you do feature branches. Yeah, it is. But what do you care more about? Do you care about being able to respond faster? Or do you care about this product has not even been released to the public, and yet you're ignoring technical debt because it increases overhead because you're only supposed to perform a pull request or work on code for this specific feature. And any other cleanup opportunities, you really ignore it because it has nothing to do with the feature that you're working on. And I'll just go in deep on them. And I know that they're not going to entertain it. But
Yeah, I think it's the problem there is not so much the mechanics of feature branching, which is their liking, which I don't disagree. I as long as the branch is short-lived, you and you're doing it just to facilitate a pull request, that's fine. But yeah, if you get into the point where you can't commit anything to it other than what your specific changes are for that change, that's a different story for sure. Like I've done cleanup stuff with it, and yeah, then it's like, well, I did this cleanup, and here's the 50 files that I cleaned up because I needed to make this one little change or cleanup change. But here's where the actual change is. But you can solve that by just doing two branches, like, right? So you refactor your little thing and do that as a broad spectrum, and then do your little thing as a different feature branch or different pull request, and just do them, one after the other or whatever. If you can get away with it.
And the question is the ROI worth it? And like for me, I don't see it. The advantage of like trunk-based development is you F something up in the code, and the other team is going to inadvertently test it for you, right? And it's just a lot faster. There's smaller batches, they're more frequent, and the other developers are going to observe things that don't appear to be right. Period. And so, I mean, this is in the book called Accelerate with Jez Humble. I always butcher this lady's name. Nicole starts with an F last name. But yeah, I mean, they do analysis on this. They take all these surveys, they compile it, and the verdict is out. I mean, people can dispute it, but these people that are doing feature branches, all this pull requests, at a high level, are they really high performing organizations? Are they getting stuff done? Are they like your top rated software shops? And the answer is no, they're not. So, but we do it because monkey see, monkey do. And I'm just challenging it, right? I'm challenging status quo. Unfortunately, there's no skunk works at every organization where it can really be observed how quickly and productive people can really be.
Yeah. Well, come to think of it, the last job I had, I think they moved towards feature branches, but when I first started working there, when you published your work in, there wasn't a code review. It was, I mean, you might ask for a code review, like where you'd sit down with people locally and just cover what you're doing. But, I mean, you pushed it right into development, and your code was there the next morning in the dev environment. And that, occasionally you mess things up for everyone or have put something in that was really, really bad. But by the time I got up to production, things were really stable. So, but that wasn't, so when you do trunk based, are you releasing off master then, or are you taking a release branch at some point and just, I'm assuming you're just taking a release branch.
Yeah. The thought process is you would basically create a release branch from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part is like owning a subsystem or module of the system, right? And that's still not a popular concept for organizations. They like to arbitrarily hand out tasks, have like 5 developers working on the same subsystem, and like that just doesn't work well in most cases. And well, I mean, we've had conversations about this, about how there's probably more value in the person owning the vision than arbitrarily delegating tasks to different people, and people are just getting code in there, and it's not focused, it's not as maintainable. No one can be held accountable for it, for the quality of it, because everybody's involved, and so it provides opportunity for people to point at each other. It's always the same patterns, man.
Yeah,
and it's not blatantly obvious to the people that are doing it. that's like, I spend so much time alone just experimenting with building systems that like I've come up with my own techniques. But for your typical enterprise developers, they've just been repeating the templates of what they've been doing over and over again. And to them, like, they don't see it at all. And I think, I don't know, I think that's just reality. You do it so much that you don't even have a revelation about how it could be refined or improved. So
yeah. Our our retros go stale for sure. There was a time when we do retros where we actually made, it wasn't just about what could we do better. It was what could we try that people try to do things better, like switching from a 2-week sprint to a 1-week sprint after we're good, or let's go more Kanban and not be so dedicated to trying to get, a fixed set of work for a sprint or whatnot. And then but then the organizations, like, they want you to fall in because they want things to follow a predictable pattern that they control, whether it's good for them or not. And so like a lot of those experiments you're doing basically just got shut down, either by bringing new people in who this isn't the way it should be done, or the organization being like, well, we want to align on this particular, set of work or whatever, or this flow. And then it's kind of like, well, we can't really accomplish anything with retro if you don't let us actually change the way we write software, based on policies. So we'll just bitch about whatever went wrong the last week, and then that we can't control, and then just be done with retro. So, but I back to your thing about teams or having particular people own stuff. I mean, you got to have a mental model of what the system's supposed to do. And like, I think a single developer can have that and, try to bring another developer maybe up to speed on it, or have a relationship where you get on the same page with someone. But as soon as you start getting to that being 3 or 4 or 5 people, it's definitely hokey. And then, what happens is, if you do this thing where you just treat developers as interchangeable, resources, like, oh, we'll just move you to this part of the system, work on this for this small little change or project.
Yeah,
it's like, well, then what you do is you end up spending half your time learning from the developers that worked on that before what they did, instead of just having the people who worked on it before get it done really quick. So yeah, I totally, I honestly think it'd be the best type of development would be to get services such that single developers could write them. And then they own those services, and maybe they own a suite of them, but every one that they own, they've got a mental model, they've got, particular style that they follow. It's seamless to get the work done.
Here's an analogy I'm going to butcher. Let's imagine that NASA awards a contract. And so NASA is like the scrum master or project manager or whatever you want to call it. It's both of them. And they say, hey, Boeing, we want you to do the landing gears. And SpaceX, we want you to handle the Raptor engines. But you know what? And then you fast forward a week. Hey, Boeing, I know we asked you to do landing gears, but SpaceX needs some help, right? They need some support. They're down a man due to COVID. We need you to help them with their Raptor engines, right? So you have these organizations that both are experts at what they do because they build aerospace components, period. But no, I just gave you 2 different organizations that are working on the project, right? I didn't give you 5, right? So imagine how the vision is going to start getting blurred when Boeing tries to jump into SpaceX to critique what SpaceX is doing, and how it's going to create more overhead, more complexity, more discussion threads than them just staying siloed and trusted in their component that should be self-isolated, work thoroughly, and then plug and play. Like, we don't, to my understanding, we don't see that in practice with organizations that assign one organization to this component, another organization to this other component of the system, etc. But when we deal with individuals, we do it all the time because we think that, well, it's plug and play. Hey, you are a jack of all trades. Every skill set that we need, that we put in a job description, we think you have it, so we're just going to throw you around in every single area of the system and think that everything gets done with the highest quality. And I'm done venting.
Yeah. I mean, we do that with teams a bit, where we have, teams own specific services and stuff. But even then, if you have developers within those teams that own a suite of things, you're jumping contexts all the time. It's interesting to say. Maybe the smell there is that when you talk to someone from another team and you say, well, this service needs to do this, and they go, well, I'm not that familiar with that service, so I'll have to talk to XYZ. That might just be an indicator that your teams are too broad or whatever. But then it becomes a problem. Well, what happens when that component doesn't need work and the developer on it is sitting idle too? There's a human problem there too. But
is there?
Well, just you have excess of capability with this person, and you might have needs elsewhere, but you don't want to move them around because for whatever reason. So
did you ever read the book DevOps Handbook?
No.
So the book, one of the areas or items that the book discusses is that you never want to have someone at 100%. That's the word I'm looking for. Efficiency. There's always work. There's always planned work and unplanned work, and organizations tend to get themselves in trouble because they want to have like 100%. I meant to say utilization, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have 100% utilization, then there's a bottleneck for unplanned work, unexpected events that you have to respond to, and then that ends up creating issues, and it starts to compound. So that's why I was questioning: is it really that bad that there's availability with individuals, and that means that they can respond to other issues versus having certain deadlines.
Yeah, but there has to be a limit to that. So if you have someone at 10% capacity for months on end, that's probably not what they mean by that. I mean, I see the value in having somebody not at 100% all the time, but I don't know if there's value having someone at 5% all the time. That's kind of what this predicament I've been in, is that there's literally just not enough work to keep busy. I mean, there's work, but it's you're never going to reach flow in it. It's just a constant not a minefield. What am I thinking of? There's just constant friction because it's a 2-line change, then all of the rigmarole that goes into it, and then another 2-line change and all the rigmarole, and it's that kind of work just isn't satisfying whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
I agree. I want to do a career change too.
I want to sell hamburgers.
I want to be an interrogator.
You should become a YouTube content creator.
I don't have the patience to edit.
Just pay someone to do it.
I don't have the patience to learn how to do good UI, UX. I don't have money to pay for it.
Well, that's because you're not a YouTube phenomenon yet, or phenom.
How many subscribers does it usually take for them to start making money?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Is it 100,000? Is it 500,000?
So you need 1,000 subscribers to request monetization. This is what it looks like. But I mean, there's definitely money to be made there. I mean, the top makers are making in the millions of dollars, but obviously you wouldn't get. Well, you could get there. Who knows? But I think a lot depends maybe on the kind of videos. So I was watching some stuff on YouTube monetization, and like there can be people that'll get 3 million views on a particular video, but they'll only make $1,000 off that video. But the same person might get 500,000 views on this one, and they'll make $3,000-4,000 off of it or something like that. And the difference is just, are advertisers willing to pay to put their content in your content? So like if you're doing something that, like I think this guy I was watching yesterday it's like, if you're doing something that talks about not purchasing things, who's going to want to put their business ad in your advertisement for not buying stuff, but if you're doing something on, let's say, the best gaming chair or something, and there's a company that's selling gaming chairs, they might, and yours is getting a lot of views, they might want to stick their gaming chair right in the middle of that. So and might be willing to pay considerably more to get it there. So I think it's how valuable you make your real estate in your videos, but also it's just how valuable you make it based on the content that you're doing and who you might be drawing in.
It's where the more skilled you become in an area, I feel like the less audience you have when you. No, let me frame this differently. The more expertise you develop, I'm not sure if that's really a synonym for skill. I feel like the less of an audience you will have to be able to relate to what you're doing. So translated, you could be Mark Seaman or what's his name? John D. DeGoes. I forgot what his middle initial was. And these are like, some functional programming people that talk about a whole bunch of different FP patterns, monoids and functors and all those words. And they'll have an audience of like maybe 50 people, or you can have someone that is in their mid-20s or whatever talk about object-oriented programming, like something that's been around for like over 20 years, and they can and it's intro to object-oriented programming, and they can have like, instead of 100 members viewing them, they can have like 2,000, right? And it's like,
it's obvious though why that is, because there's more beginners than there are, masters. So
yeah, the conflict of interest for me is, at what point do I shelve or hang up me doing personal growth in the actual field of the refining, developing how I build systems, versus helping other people, right? And no longer growing in my craft of building with higher quality. It's more of, I just disseminate really just basic general audience information about how to get started in software development and the antique paradigm that people are going to use so they can get a job. And like, I mean, I asked Scott Blashin, that the author of Domain Modeling Made Functional, and I'm like, oh, you could be like helping hella advanced people, but you choose to help people like me just learn the very basics. When I thought you have a degree in mathematics, like, why do you choose to like go backwards and dumb down information versus like really increase your knowledge and just go like next generation type system development? I mean, he just said he prefers to help people. That's where he gets fulfilled at.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Do you understand like the conflict I'm trying to like articulate? Sounds like no.
Well, I mean, I understand the situation. Are you saying that?
How do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time growing yourself as a developer, and you learn techniques that the majority of people will never ever grow to? It's kind of like martial arts, right? I don't know what the first belt is. Is the first belt a white belt or something? Or do you even have a belt? Okay, let's say that you don't even have a belt in martial art.
Belt, right?
But through 15, 20, 30 years, you focus on yourself like almost every day or every other day. You're writing code. You're occasionally, a couple times a year, you're giving talks. You're answering questions on Stack Overflow. You're posting questions on Stack Overflow. And so this is what we call experience, right? And so you're gradually growing your skills, right? And then you start commanding more and more money. You start getting invites to more and more conferences. And then your consulting fees start to go up because you're so deep into, one or two specific areas that you charge hella money to solve organization problems, right? And so let's say over 20 years, you get the black belt of software engineering, right? That's kind of what I mean. Or you can work in this industry for 20 years and continue to repeat how to teach people the 20 to 30-year-old paradigm of object-oriented programming in Java. And you don't really get a black belt from like honing your skills technically, but I mean, one could argue that you have a black belt in disseminating information about hello world when it comes to software development. Like that's what I'm trying to explain. Like,
yeah, but
okay.
I mean, if you get just to follow your metaphor along, I mean, you get your black belt and you've reached the pinnacle. Then the next phase for you is really to likely become a sensei yourself, right? And to teach others.
Second degree black belt. But yeah.
Well, I mean, let's just say you've reached whatever the top is, the pinnacle. Then where do you go from there? And most of it becomes, well, now it's time to pass that which you've learned on to the next generation, which usually entails going back to basic katas and stuff like that from when you were at your very beginning, because you have to build up the skill base. So it makes sense that, you know, you might be advancing as the best developer in the world and you've reached the pinnacle of what you can do, and but now you spin around and you decide to use what you've learned and guide other people through. Plus it's it can be lonely at the top though too. I mean, right?
I agree.
If you're the only one that does what you do, and you can't have an intelligent conversation about what you're doing with 90% of the population, you know, it's pretty difficult to be in that scenario and just, you know, be alone all the time.
A couple of days ago, I was surfing Google Maps because I was interested in Jiu Jitsu training classes local to Miami. And is it not like the same metaphor, right? Like you have, I think in most of these training facilities, you have your one black belt, so many degrees of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and then their employees are like purple belts, right? And so I would think that the owners of these training facilities, I would think that they probably teach the purple belts, you know, how to properly train, you know, children and grown men that are hitting their midlife crisis that want to learn a new skill or whatever. But I still think that it's probably highly likely that these trainers maintain their credibility, or maybe this is a question. After they get their black belt, is their credibility just sealed and that's it? Or is there continuous learning? Are they required to enter tournaments, you know, every so often to compete so that they can maintain their, I don't know, their social status?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they still do katas though, but at least good ones probably still do katas, because isn't that part of the whole? Well, I guess it depends. I don't really know about jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. I don't really know much about martial arts other than that katas are really about, you know, going through the motions so that you're prepared when you actually need to go through them, but in a controlled way or whatever. But I don't know. I think that's where the metaphor starts to fall off anyways.
Yeah. I know it's hella technical.
Yeah.
The steps and procedures, given the positions.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely a market for actually a fairly broad market for developers who are in C# or Java or whatever, who want to move into functional programming and just need, you know, introductions to the concepts, and then to realize, because I mean, I've been in that space, and you know, anything I could absorb on it for a while I did, but a lot of it was how to do it in C#. So but like we've talked about, I think that it's a step though. There's a thing.
That's how you get a reaction out of me. Like,
yeah, it's a step though, is what you got to realize. It's like
you have to walk before you run.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was doing, well, just like I said, when I was doing procedural programming purely with C, and I started getting into object oriented, you know, a lot of it was just applying the principles back into C, and then realizing all of the things I wasn't capable of doing, you know, to the full extent, without actually having the language support. So, and I can see that a bit with functional programming as well. I haven't made the leap yet because there's just not as much impetus to. So,
Hold on, you haven't made a leap yet because there's not what?
Impetus, like there's not.
That's a fancy word. I don't know what that means.
There's no, like I have no reason to. There's nothing like saying like here's why you should move to functional programming. Like, oh, there's more work in the kinds of jobs you want to do. No, there's not.
No,
So,
there's not, but it's a
yeah.
revelation. Speaking for myself, it's there's a couple of things. People get mad, but I still believe it, right? It's a status symbol, right? Hey, Roman. It's a status symbol, right? Two is you really start approaching problems differently, right? Um, like it changes the way that you approach system design and problem solving. So regardless of how you process business requirements, I went from thinking in implementation details of how I would implement this business requirement to now, since I've learned functional programming, and I would say that I would like to think I'm a little bit above intermediate because I'm full of myself. I think I really know it. I no longer think about implementation details. I just think about ins and outs of the function, and that's it, right? So like the majority of problems that I observe, my whole line of thinking has just changed. It's less cluttered. It's less foggy. It's more I don't give a damn what the implementation details are. What I do know is in order for me to solve this particular business problem, thou shall be this type of operation that takes these types of inputs and will return this specific output. Finished. And that's it. And then I just fill in the middle part that's going to take those inputs and spit out that output. And that's it. So like my whole line of thinking is so much clearer now that when I'm having conversations or sessions with people, I feel like a different person. And sometimes I feel like they think I'm BSing when I'm trying to explain something, or I treat something as if it's trivial. So I wish I could give an example of something that fits like that type of experience where you just think on a different level. The only thing I can think about is psychedelics. Which I'm no longer messing with anymore. So I'm 96% recovered now. That's it.
Gotcha.
Are you still maintaining your fitness regimen? Shoot, you fell off that fast?
So I woke up, was it Tuesday? I couldn't move my neck, like, and it still kind of hurts, but I couldn't move my neck like this. I was like, well, I'm gonna still try to run today, but as soon as I started running, like, it was just constant pain right here. So, and I'm no David Goggins, so I didn't really just keep running through it. I'm like, fuck this, I'll just go in. And it's starting to come back, but thing is that I should be able to get back up on the horse here. I think I went into it knowing I'm going to fail at succeeding at this, and it's going to be a lot. But I shouldn't let that be like, well, if I've fallen off for even a few days, I can't just, that's it. I've ruined the whole thing. I can just get right back on and keep going. So I did run once this week though, a couple miles, and it was a little bit, a pain in the neck, but literally a pain in the neck. But I'll probably go for a jog today.
Listen to your body, right? Listen to your body.
Yeah, if I did that, it'd be like I'd never do anything because it's always constantly saying, don't do anything.
Well, I was just going to say, but at the same time, still exercise resourcefulness. So, for example, I ran 3 miles on the beach, I think last Friday. And then I wanted to run on Sunday. But before I even ran, I was just taking out the garbage. And somehow a sharp pain went up my knee as I was just taking a casual stride Like not running, not jogging. I was literally walking to the dumpster, and I injured my knee without doing anything. I just literally like just walking. I had a sharp pain go up my knee, which sucks, right? But make long story short, like I just found alternative methods to still do some like cardio or exercise. In this case, I just did 3 sets of 100 on a weight bench of the Olympic bar. But and like last night, I just jump roped. But yeah, there's other things you can do besides running.
Yeah, running isn't the problem. It's like I said, the kink in the neck thing was. I think I tried to do some push-ups too, and that was even. Like it sucks if when you wake up and you can't move your head like this without it having an intense pain.
Yeah,
like that friggin' sucks. And I'm never going to chiropractors. Like I think they're just witch doctors and they're full of crap. So
that's a quote. I'll start doing setups. I'm trying to get a 6-pack for the first time. I only get 6-packs when I get sick, but I'm trying to like get a 6-pack from like a legitimate 6-pack. So I've been using the ab roller and I've been using a decline bench.
do you do intermittent fasting at all?
I've done it once, maybe like 6 months ago, where I went like 2 days of not eating solid foods. I just drank like a smoothie and drank water.
Oh, that's not. If you have a smoothie, it's not fasting. So,
but no.
Yeah, it's probably a kind of fast, but it's not really a real fast. But because I like the whole thing with, I hear that I've never been in this position to actually have one, but the biggest problem with getting a 6-pack is that you have to get your body weight down pretty low, or your body fat percentage down pretty low to actually have the definition, which intermittent fasting is keenly adept at helping with. But
yeah, but the thing is like my lifestyle, I don't have abdominal strength. I don't.
Yeah.
So like I tore my abdominals like a year and a half ago because I tried to go all in one day, my very first time, and I was injured for about 3 weeks. Like I couldn't do anything. Like my stomach hurt that bad after working out. But yeah, man, it's kind of weird because we're already like into fall, but hopefully, I don't know, maybe Christmas season I'll get to have my first natural set of abs, and I'll probably go to like Thailand or something and show it off in Bali or something. But yeah,
there you go.
I'm about that lifestyle. Ramen, Roman, what's up?
Ramen
Noodles.
We had back when I was in like 3rd grade, we had a Greek and Roman party was what it was, and it was like kind of a glorified toga party, but we were supposed to bring Greek and Roman food, and somebody brought ramen noodles, which are like they're Roman noodles.
Yeah, I used to live off of that when I lived in the dorms in college.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think we all had times where ramen noodles were the go-to. So
I still haven't researched like the history of ramen noodles.
Yeah. Do you ever go get good ramen at places? Not the smacker. I haven't, but I know there are places.
I didn't know there was such thing.
Yeah, I think the town that I went to college in now has a ramen noodle place, and so it's because when you get like good ramen noodles, it's not just the noodles. It's the soup, but they also usually put like chunks of pork belly and other stuff on top of them. So I can't remember what all they do, but
is that how you spell ramen? Ramen?
Ramen, right?
Yeah.
They'll put like eggs, or I don't know.
Really understood. Is that symbol supposed to be a person with their arms up?
Which symbol? Oh, that Roman's doing.
Yeah.
Must be.
I can't think of it being anything else.
Do you ever use the?
It could be a boob of like maybe a sagging breast, and
Do
that's
you
a
ever
nipple
use
right
the
there.
emoji keyboard in Windows?
No, I'm not a
So like,
girl.
no, but I mean, if you do Windows period, there's actually like some ASCII stuff on the second tab. So there's like an emoji tab, but then there's these they apparently call them Kaomoji, Kaomoji, and they have all these just different little like faces and stuff that you can kind of fill in. Like, I wonder if they've got the flipping table one there. Flipping table and the shrug. The shrug's my favorite. So, a little weird to use, but I just sent you in private chat. Why we can't chat in the actual main
okay.
chat.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of those. So like, like win period, and so like,
It's Friday.
it's fun.
I'm try to get through this day. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You have any plans for the weekend?
I got homework to do tomorrow, so I've got. I think
You're serious about this class, huh?
Well, yeah, I've got about 4 discussions to do, and I think a paper, and then like one of them's a project management course, so we have to do this like project pitch, which is totally.
You put all this on the weekend?
Well, I'm going to be doing it tomorrow, probably. So the discussions should be rather quick because I think I just need to write up a meaningful comment. The problem is, one of the things is I'm like really slow at writing. So, something that, like, if I write a blog post, for instance, it's going to take me 8 hours, 6 hours of just constant, continual going at it to get it to where I want to actually submit it.
Of what average length?
I don't. It doesn't matter. Just anything, man. If it's not like an extremely short comment, it's like, because I constantly reread and then edit down writing. So
I haven't wrote a blog post in a while, but mine usually takes half a day per topic.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. Like, I'm reading it. People think it's weird that it's a white voice that narrates when I read it. But I'm reading it, and then I always like find opportunities to make it more concise. So,
yeah. You ever? I wonder how. I've if I read something by you, I'd hear your voice if I was reading it. But I've never just read something and then thought ahead of time, like, I'm gonna just have this person read this to me, and just have somebody completely like have Gilbert Gottfried read Scott Nimrod's post or something like that. And you could imagine hearing, Gilbert Gottfried. I don't know if you know who that is, but
no.
He's the voice of like Iago in Aladdin, or
Okay.
he read he actually read 50 Shades of Grey, because he's got this really extremely annoying voice. Not annoying, but just over the top. What is this one? Oh, here.
It's like, my mind is racist because anything that's educational or informative, it's a white voice that reads it to me. If it's anything that, and also like if it's like press, like news, it's a white voice. If it's anything that is like comments, like on YouTube, on like rap videos or shootings, it's a black voice. it's effed up.
Jeez, man, you got such a racist mind.
Yeah. America. Anyways. Well, Let me. I'm really not looking forward to my business day today.
Well, today's my last day of this contract for at least for a couple months, so it's going to be closing a door, I think. Looking forward to the end of today. Although it's going to be very weird. I don't know how. Like, biggest thing I'm worried about is I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to contribute to these to this assessment we're doing. Like, I can do legwork for sure.
There you are. You can do performance. You can do. I'm typing all this in the chat window. You can do performance. You can do file system design. You can do their source control strategy, whatever the proper name for that is.
Yeah. There's plenty of ideas and stuff like that. It's, a lot of this is architecture. The architect that I'm one of basically 2 to 3 person team here, where we've got the owner, one of the owners of the company, or the operations guy. He's doing it, and then they have this architect, and he's looking at a lot of stuff like just Azure Event Store and cloud and all this stuff. I'm like, man, we haven't even seen the system yet. I don't even know what to think. And I'm also of the opinion that, a lot of the reason that people change is that they're sold false hopes in some technology that, should solve all their problems, and all it does is just shift their problems to another place. So, in terms of I'm afraid my assessment will be, you don't really need to change what you're doing. You just need to maybe shore up these practices or make this go a little bit faster, and if you could get this to production quicker.
I'll put character turns. Let's still put everything on the same line. But
so you can type in the comments. I can't type in the comments. That makes sense.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, do I need to give you permission or something?
So I can write a private chat, but I can't write comments to Roman or to you.
Oh.
Huh.
Okay, that's weird. Roman can write comments on here, but you can't as a guest.
Maybe I have to log in to do it, because I've just jumped in as a guest.
Oh,
so I don't know.
Maybe it probably doesn't know who you. Yeah, it does. It has you as Shawnee, or no? Did you just type that in as a?
Yeah, I just typed it in.
Yeah, it probably doesn't know who you are. I have actually, let me quickly pull up my document. I'm not going to share it, but I just want to look at my table of contents and tell you everything that I looked into. First impressions, code metrics, project design, system design, UX design. Actually, can I just copy this whole thing? Well, maybe I shouldn't. Rapid developer feedback, dependency injection. The only reason why I have dependency injection is because of the fact that they were trying to use it, but they didn't have any tests. So I was questioning, why did they do that? And then I talked about the different layers, the views, view models. How often do they rely on null arguments and why that's bad?
Yeah, I think that a lot of that stuff is actually assessments at a lower level than what we're looking at.
Okay.
So we're looking at the whole, like, more of the enterprise architecture. Really, it sounds like what they have is an ERP system that's tightly coupled to a bunch of other systems. So if they change it, they've got a ripple effect, which is a fairly, I mean, it's not a trivial problem to fix, but to think of the solutions trivial is that if you don't want something to affect the things around it, you put a layer of indirection that adapts it, and that's really all you need to do. But
AKA interface or what?
Well, an adapter,
or
right?
Abstraction.
You define the interface, then you put an adapter between the interface and the thing. So if the thing changes, you should only need to change the adapter to make it work. So like it doesn't always work, but like 9 times out of 10, if you just remove direct dependencies on something and invert the dependency arrows, or make it so it's dependent on interface, your problems go away in terms of tightly coupled systems having rippled effect. But
I find myself thinking organizations over what I believe is an unnecessary dependency on third-party libraries or frameworks, where the default framework that they're using can accommodate the use case. They want to pull in an additional third-party framework or dependency, and I feel it just complicates things, especially when it comes to testing and forcing you to code a certain type of way because of that framework that you're pulling in that library. Mm-hmm. I usually lose those battles. I suck at articulating. Like, I can write really good arguments, but if I'm like on a public platform and I have to verbalize it, it doesn't come out right.
Yeah. Well, cool. I guess we'll talk to you next week. Next weekend's Ludum Dare, and I haven't done any prep work for it. And I'm worried that I'm going to have a bunch of homework to do that I'm going to have to get done to be able to do it. But I don't know. I think it's my jam, so I should do it.
You should do it in Rust.
No. Okay. I'll just keep going. And I should do it I should try F# and do it in mono game with F# and go that route with just a thin layer of I
think it would be pointless.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I thought the game engine or the loop, whatever you call that, message loop, whatever that thing is called, is all about mutability, right?
Well, that's to be performant. Yeah, it is. But you think about game, if let's just say you get rid of constraints, right? You think about an update cycle. That's literally a pure function. Right? You have the previous state of the game. You've got time and you have inputs. So with that, so user inputs, whatever. With that, you compute the next frame.
Okay.
I mean, that's exact. It is a pure function. An update cycle is. Rendering is a side effect for sure. So that'll be a void thing that can be, stripped out into its own whatever. But yeah, Excel. Somebody wrote a Doom engine in Excel, or maybe they just made a swirly cube using 3D rendering in Excel.
Enterprise ready. Well, let me know how that works out. If you need any help, feel free to ping me whenever, because I'm sure you'll probably fumble on syntax. But yeah.
Oh yeah, there's somebody wrote basically like a kind of Doom type thing in Excel.
Well, to make it feel better, what's his name? Who's the Doom author?
Carmack.
Yeah, John Carmack's a huge
fan.
fan.
Romero. Yeah.
I don't know about Romero. I don't know anything about him. But Carmack's a huge fan of FP when building systems now. All right. Well, it's been real. So,
yeah. It comes from a math background, so he should be.
Bye, Roman. Ramen. Noodles. Yeah. All right.
We'll just call you Noodles now, Stoffel. So, all right.
All right. Yeah.
Bye.